All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, and most specifically, I want to talk about some regulations that came into effect today in the state of New York directly regarding Bitcoin mining. So as you guys know, we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. So I wanted to get out in front of this story and tell you guys exactly what I think is going on here and what my opinion of what the effects of it are going to be. So if you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could please smash the like button, I would appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. Lastly, if you want to join the channel and become a member, you can hit the join button on the YouTube page. If you don't see a button, there should be a link below. Members get some members-only content. In addition to that, we do a once-a-week members-only live stream, and the members get to pick a video each week for me to do a deep dive on. Okay, let's talk about the Bitcoin regulations that came out this morning from the state of New York. Okay, I'm going to read an article. This is from the Associated Press. So, New York governor signs law that limits crypto mining. So, one of the big gigantic fears out there is what are the regulations that are on the way for cryptocurrency? And, is this going to be a problem for Bitcoin miners? Is this going to be a problem for Bitcoin itself? So I really want to put this story into perspective because I hope that this does not get blown out of proportion. It does not seem to be having an effect on Bitcoin or the miners so far yet this morning. So hopefully this is not one of those things that gets grabbed up and turned into FUD, because this is a very, very limited thing. And this has been widely anticipated. We have been talking about this exact regulation in the state of New York on the channel for the last 8 months. So this is of no surprise to me, and I do not think it's a harbinger of things to come. This is not setting a precedent for, the rest of the United States anyway, and that's what we really need to get to the bottom of. There's a few states where essentially the Bitcoin miners have already assessed these are not going to be Bitcoin miner friendly states, most notably New York and California. Setting up shop and mining Bitcoin in those two states is probably a gigantic mistake. Some of this has to do with politics, but I don't like to talk about politics. However, when they're having an impact on our investments, we need to just understand what the politics are behind this. So New York has been very vocal about this. Most of the big publicly traded Bitcoin miners have already left New York, understanding that this was not going to be a business-friendly environment for them. I will talk about one company that I'm not sure what the ramifications are. It looks to me like this may directly affect one of the smaller Bitcoin miners, but I'm not sure about that, so I will clue you in on that in just a minute. Okay, let's talk about the law itself. New law sets 2-year moratorium on new and renewed air permits for fossil fuel plants using energy-intensive proof-of-work cryptocurrency mining. So essentially that really means Bitcoin. There aren't very many other proof-of-work coins left. Okay, New York is taking a first-in-the-nation step to tap the brakes on the spread of cryptocurrency mining under legislation that Governor Kathy Hochul signed Tuesday. So again, this is first in the nation. They're the first ones to pass a law like this. And what I want to be clear about, and this is my opinion, I do not think that this is the start of a wave of regulations by the states. There are a few states in specific that have been extremely vocal, and the Bitcoin mining companies already know those states were not going to be Bitcoin miner friendly. So I think you can expect more from the state of New York. I think people probably didn't even bother setting up in California because that is not going to be a Bitcoin friendly environment at all. But for the vast majority of the states in this country, they will not follow this lead. There are some others that will. There will be a small percent, and this will be a state by state thing. But most importantly, the federal government is not likely to follow this. And even if you look at what this is, it's very specific as to exactly what it is that it's banning, or at this point actually just putting a moratorium on. The measure comes amid growing scrutiny of the cryptocurrency industry following this month's collapse of FTX exchange. So to me that's FUD already. One thing has absolutely nothing to do with the other. But New York's measure, which passed the state legislation in June, so you can see this passed in June, it's been sitting on the governor's desk, she's now been reelected, and she's now signed this into law, is specifically concerned with the environmental aspects of crypto. Quote, I will ensure that New York continues to be the center of financial innovation while also taking important steps to prioritize the protection of our environment. The new law sets a 2-year moratorium on new and renewed air permits for fossil fuel power plants used for energy-intensive proof-of-work cryptocurrency mining. So you can see this is very specific. This is for fossil fuel power plants that are owned by Bitcoin miners that are mining Bitcoin. And they say cryptocurrency, there are a few other proof of works, but the vast majority of this is all about Bitcoin. They're not actually banning proof of work in the state of New York. This is actually just a 2-year moratorium, and it's not even on mining itself. It's just on the use of fossil fuels to mine. So this is a very narrow scope, and again, we've talked about this a lot on the channel. This was coming. We knew this was coming. It is very specific. Riot has already long since left the state of New York and abandoned ship, and they've moved most of their operations to Texas. There are several states that are extremely Bitcoin miner friendly. You're going to get some other states, and New York is certainly going to be one of them, that is not going to be crypto miner friendly. So this is just one of those factors that people are going to have to take into account. Now, I believe very strongly that the federal government will not go down this path at all. We've heard no talk of this at all. There's been no whispers of any legislation on the federal level coming down the line like this, and that would be extremely controversial. I think there's a lot of regulations that will come ahead of this. Mainly, you guys know I've been looking for regulations on the crypto exchanges and the stable coins. I think those two things are first in line by far. This isn't even a whisper yet, so on a national level, I don't think this is really important. And again, I don't really think it affects the industry at all. So I'm hoping this does not turn into a big story that people run with and try to make a big deal out of, because it's an extremely isolated incident. It's an extremely narrow scope of what they don't want. They don't want fossil fuel plants directly mining Bitcoin in the state of New York. The law also requires the Department of Environmental Conservation to assess how crypto mining affects the state's ability to meet its climate goals. Environmentalists said that New York was undermining these goals by letting crypto mining operations run their own natural gas burning power plants. So we got to remember, natural gas is a fossil fuel: coal, oil, natural gas. Cryptocurrency advocates, meanwhile, argued that the measure would crimp New York's economic development and singled out crypto while not addressing other fossil fuel use. So there's your point and your counterpoint. The fact is, the governor has signed this into law. It's a 2-year moratorium, so we don't know what will happen after that, but I suspect you will see no Bitcoin miners set up shop in the state of New York. Just this uncertainty surrounding it, I think, pretty much eliminates New York from ever being a place where Bitcoin miners are going to conduct business. Okay, so briefly, I want to touch on one Bitcoin miner that I do think this affects. They have not put out a press release yet, and I'd like to hear directly from them. It would appear to me that this affects DigiHost. So you can see DigiHost is already down to a $17 million market cap. It's down 90+%. So a lot of bad news has already been built into DigiHost's stock price. But I want to read a section from their Q3 financial statements, which they just put out a few weeks ago. North Tonawanda Power Plant Acquisition Update. And again, this is from DigiHost's Q3, the period ended September 30th, 2022 financial statements. North Tonawanda Power Plant Acquisition Update. The company continues to move forward with closing documentation and approval requirements relating to DigiHost's acquisition of a 60-megawatt power plant in North Tonawanda, New York. So this is in New York. Management anticipates the transaction will close in Q4 of 2022, providing the company with an additional computing capacity of approximately 1.04 exahash based upon power generation run rate and approximately 50 megawatts from the plant. When combined with DigiHost's current operations, total computing capacity from the company's New York State operations is projected to be 1.7 exahash. So I don't know what is to come of this. I want to hear directly from them. It would appear to me that this law directly affects what's going on in North Tonawanda, but I would like to hear that from DigiHost. And in addition to that, you'll see the next section of DigiHost's press release is the Alabama site build out. DigiHost also knew, obviously, this legislation was sitting on the desk of the governor. So in the meantime, they have shifted gears. They have started to move their operations to Alabama. So that is in the early stages, but that's something that they did in response to this potentially happening. Okay, so the reason I think this affects them, this is directly from DigiHost's website. So they say, as the company intends to purchase and bring online its own power generation facilities, it will focus on powering these facilities using, quote, bridge power sources, meaning low carbon or renewable energy sources where available. For example, sourcing renewable natural gas, quote, RNG, a natural gas developed from the collection and conditioning of organic waste. This lowers carbon not just at the point of use, but across the entire system. So, I don't know if this qualification of natural gas is going to be exempt from what they're saying, but the law says no natural gas. So their entire facility, to me, looks like it could be under this law, and it may end up never coming online. Understand that that deal is not closed yet. It's not a part of their operations right now anyway, but it was a piece of what they were looking to do. And to me, I will wait to hear from DigiHost. I'm sure they will address this directly over the coming days, but it does look like their operations in North Tonawanda could be in jeopardy of being, at least put on hold for 2 years as a result of this legislation. I don't really see another Bitcoin mining company that's affected by this. If you guys know of any of the publicly traded companies that are doing business in New York still, you can drop in the comments and let me know, and I'll take a look. I do know Riot was doing business and they left. I think that's about the extent of it. These are all the publicly traded Bitcoin companies that I follow. This is my big board, so I show this in a lot of my videos. You'll see it is green from top to bottom. So I don't think the Bitcoin miners are being affected by this. Even DigiHost is up 5% on the day today, so we'll have to wait and see how they specifically address this issue. But I wanted to get out in front of this and let you guys know what's actually going on here so that you aren't hearing rumors on Twitter or TikTok or even YouTube videos or wherever else. As I always say, the Bitcoin miners are extremely volatile, so please be careful while trading the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin itself. So that's what I got for you on the New York regulations on cryptocurrency. So thanks again for watching. Remember to subscribe and smash the like button, and we will see you in the next video.